The sentence of silence. The judgment hall of the Galactic Collective was a monument to ancient power. Built from crystallized starlight, the structure floated in the neutral zone between galaxies, a place where no single species could claim advantage. Ambassador Dr. Rebecca Thorne stood at the center of the circular platform, her dark eyes scanning the assembled representatives of 63 alien civilizations. Each species occupied their designated sector, arranged in a spiral that reached upward into the vaulted ceiling where artificial stars twinkled like judging eyes. Rebecca had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. As Earth's chief diplomat, she had navigated countless treaties, resolved trade disputes, and built bridges between human colonies and alien worlds. Her silver hair, pulled back in a practical bun, reflected the ambient light of the hall. Behind her stood General Hassan al-Rashid, commander of the United Earth Defense Fleet, his military dress uniform crisp despite the 6-hour proceedings. His weathered face remained impassive, but Rebecca could sense the tension radiating from him like heat from a star. The charges against humanity had been building for decades. Too innovative, too unpredictable, too willing to question established order. The collective had maintained peace for 12,000 years through careful balance and rigid tradition. Humanity, having joined only 200 years ago, had already disrupted systems that had remained unchanged for millennia. Archon, Velshar of the Korthanis hegemony, rose to deliver the verdict. The Korthanis were ancient beings of pure energy, contained within elaborate crystalline vessels. Velshar's form pulsed with cold blue light as his voice resonated through the hall, without need for translation technology. The Galactic Collective has deliberated. Humanity stands accused of destabilizing established order, of advancing technology at dangerous speeds, and of refusing to accept the wisdom of elder species. The evidence is clear. In 2 centuries, you have colonized 47 systems. You have created artificial intelligence that rivals our most sophisticated networks. You have proposed economic reforms that would overturn traditions older than your entire civilization. Most concerning, you have begun questioning the very structure of this collective itself. Rebecca stepped forward, her voice steady. We have broken no laws. Every colony was established in unclaimed space. Our AI development followed all safety protocols. Our economic proposals were submitted through proper channels. And yes, we question. That is not a crime. It is the foundation of progress. A ripple of sound moved through the assembly. Some species whispered among themselves. Others remained perfectly still, their alien forms unreadable. Rebecca recognized the pattern. The verdict had been decided before the trial began. This was theater, a formal execution of a decision already made. Progress, Velshar said, and there was something almost like sadness in his energy signature, is precisely what concerns us. Your species progresses too quickly. You adapt, you innovate, you refuse to accept limits. In 12,000 years, the collective has maintained peace through stability. You threaten that stability simply by existing. General al-Rashid stepped forward, his voice hard as steel. You fear us because we remind you of what you once were. Before you became comfortable, before you stopped reaching for something greater. We fear you, said Counselor Nexera of the Vithrax Communion, a being resembling a floating mass of bioluminescent tendrils, because we have seen species like yours before. They burn bright and fast, consuming everything around them before collapsing into war and chaos. We will not allow you to bring that chaos to our carefully maintained peace. Velshar's form brightened, signaling the formal announcement. The vote has concluded. 49 species voted for exile. 11 voted against. 3 abstained. Humanity is hereby removed from collective space. You will be relocated to Sector Void 7, a region beyond our explored territories. You have 15 years to evacuate all human presence from collective space. All colonies must be abandoned. All treaties are dissolved. All diplomatic relationships are terminated. The words fell like hammer blows. Sector Void 7. Rebecca's team had researched it during the trial. It was an immense region of space at the galaxy's edge, largely unmapped and unexplored. Initial scans showed it was sparse in resources, filled with gravitational anomalies, and bordered by regions of space too dangerous for conventional travel. It was, in essence, a cosmic prison. 63 billion humans, Rebecca said quietly, and you would cast us into the dark. You are resilient, Velshar replied. You will survive. And perhaps, in 10,000 years, your descendants will understand why this was necessary. A barrier will be erected around Sector Void 7. It will be permanent. For your protection and ours. The hall began to empty. Representatives departed through various means, portals, traditional doors, or simply fading from existence. Within minutes, only Rebecca and Hassan remained on the platform. We could fight, Hassan said, his jaw tight. The fleet is strong. We've been preparing for the possibility. And we would lose, Rebecca replied. 63 species, 12,000 years of weapons development, fleets that number in the millions. We would be ash before the first month ended. Then we accept exile? Rebecca looked up at the artificial stars in the ceiling. We accept it. But we don't surrender. Whatever is waiting in Sector Void 7, we'll face it. And we'll prove them wrong. The 15 years of Exodus moved with brutal efficiency. Earth's government mobilized every resource. Manufacturing facilities worked around the clock, building the massive arc ships that would carry humanity into the unknown. Each vessel was a self-contained world, capable of supporting millions in various states of suspended animation. The ships were marvels of human engineering, combining technologies borrowed from a dozen alien species and improved through human ingenuity. Rebecca coordinated the diplomatic aspects, ensuring that the evacuation proceeded smoothly. Some alien species watched with pity, others with satisfaction. A few, like the Corthinus, maintained cold indifference. The collective's enforcement fleet patrolled the borders of human space, making certain the timeline was kept. Hassan oversaw the military evacuation. Every weapon, every ship, every piece of defensive technology had to be moved. He worked 18-hour days, his command center aboard the flagship, Indomitable becoming the nerve center of humanity's greatest migration. Dr. Sarah Okafor, Earth's leading astrophysicist, studied the available data on Sector Void 7. The readings were strange, inconsistent. There were gravitational fluctuations that didn't match known physics, energy signatures that appeared and disappeared without pattern. And something else, something that kept showing up in the data that her team couldn't explain. Structures, faint traces of artificial constructs scattered throughout the sector. Could be sensor ghosts, her assistant suggested. The void sector is far from any calibration points. Or, Sarah said, staring at the readings, it could be something real. Something the collective doesn't know about. She brought her findings to Rebecca during a brief meeting aboard the Indomitable. The ambassador studied the data, her eyes narrowing. The collective has been around for 12,000 years, Rebecca said. Surely they've explored that region. Not according to their public records, Sarah replied. Sector Void 7 was marked as low priority. Sparse resources, difficult navigation, high energy expenditure for little return. They mapped the borders and nothing else. Hazan leaned over the display. What if there's a reason they avoided it? Something dangerous? Or something valuable, Rebecca said quietly. Something they didn't want anyone else to find. The final week arrived. The last human colony, New Beijing on the planet Tianxia, was evacuated. 10 million people boarded the arc ships, leaving behind cities they had built over 3 generations. Rebecca walked through the empty streets before departure, rain falling softly on abandoned parks and silent plazas. The final day came with little ceremony. Humanity's fleet, over 3,000 arcships plus escorts, gathered at the edge of collective space. The barrier to Sector Void 7 shimmered before them. A wall of energy visible as rippling curtains of light across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Rebecca stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, Hassan beside her. Around them, crew members worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The main view screen showed the barrier ahead and the collective's observer fleet behind. "All ships report ready," the communications officer announced. 3,217 vessels. 63 billion souls. Everything we are. "Then let's go," Rebecca said. The Indomitable moved forward, and the fleet followed. As they approached the barrier, Rebecca felt a strange sensation, like reality itself was bending around them. The ship's instruments went haywire for a moment, every reading spiking to impossible levels. Then they were through. Asterisk. The view screen showed what lay ahead, and Rebecca's breath caught. The void sector was not empty. Far from it. Scattered across the visible space were structures, massive and ancient, built from materials that shouldn't exist. They were clearly artificial, clearly abandoned, and clearly unlike anything the collective had ever built. "My God," Hassan whispered. Sarah's voice came over the comm, barely containing her excitement. "Ambassador, you need to see these readings. Those structures, they're not made from normal matter. The composition is like nothing in our databases or the collective's public records." "What are they?" Rebecca asked. "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "But they're old. Incredibly old. Millions of years at least. And Rebecca, there are thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. We've been exiled into the ruins of a civilization that makes the collective look like children." Rebecca looked at Hassan. And despite everything, despite the exile and the injustice, she felt a smile forming on her face. The collective had thrown humanity into the dark, expecting them to struggle and fail. Instead, they had thrown them into a treasure trove beyond imagination. "All ships," Rebecca transmitted across the fleet-wide channel. "This is Ambassador Thorne. We have crossed the barrier. We are now beyond collective space. They meant this as punishment, as exile. But look around you. They have given us something they never intended. They have given us freedom. And they have given us mystery. Whatever those structures are, whatever knowledge they hold, it belongs to us now. We will explore. We will learn. We will build something here that will make the collective's 12,000 years of stagnation look like a footnote in history." The fleet pressed forward into the void sector. Behind them, the barrier solidified, cutting them off from everything they had known. Ahead of them lay the ruins of something ancient and magnificent, waiting to share its secrets with the first species, curious enough and brave enough to seek them out. The collective had exiled humanity to ensure their own safety. They had no idea they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. Asterisk architects of Infinity 80. Years had passed since humanity crossed the barrier into Sector Void 7. The generation that remembered Earth as home was dying, replaced by those born among the stars, children of exile who knew the void sector as their birthright. The transformation that occurred in those 8 decades would have shocked the galactic collective had they known. But the barrier they erected worked both ways. They could not see in, and humanity chose not to reveal what they had discovered. Dr. Kai Mensa stood in the observation deck of Chrono Station, humanity's greatest achievement and most closely guarded secret. He was 53 years old, born aboard the Ark ship Perseverance during the Exodus. His parents had been engineers who helped build the first permanent settlements in the void sector. Kai had grown up hearing stories of Earth and the collective, but they felt distant, almost mythical. His reality was here, in this strange region of space where the rules of physics seemed more like suggestions. The view from Kronos Station was breathtaking. The station itself was built inside one of the ancient structures, a sphere 20 kilometers in diameter, constructed from a material humanity had named Eternium. The material defied conventional analysis. It existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. It was solid yet permeable, ancient yet somehow new, and most importantly, it existed outside normal temporal flow. Still staring at the walls? Captain Arya Volkov entered the observation deck, her boots making soft sounds on the Eternium floor. She was 41, a military officer who had risen through the ranks to command Kronos Station's defense fleet. Her blonde hair was cut short in military fashion, and her gray eyes held the sharpness of someone who had seen combat. The void sector was not empty of threats. Strange entities dwelled in the deeper regions, things that predated known civilization. The walls are the miracle, Kai replied, not turning from the view. Every time I look at them, I see something new. Watch. He placed his hand against the Eternium surface. The material rippled, and for a moment, images appeared within it. Glimpses of other times, other moments. A construction crew building this very station. An alien species Kai didn't recognize, working with tools that bent space itself. Then nothing, the wall returning to its mirror-smooth surface. The architects, Arya said softly. That was the name humanity had given to the mysterious species that built these structures. 8 decades of research had revealed fragments of their story. They had been a civilization that achieved something no other species had ever managed. They had conquered time itself. Dr. Chun thinks she's found something in the central vault, Arya continued. She asked for you specifically. Kai turned from the window, interest lighting his eyes. Dr. Maya Chun was the lead researcher on the architect project, brilliant and obsessive in equal measure. If she had found something significant, it could change everything. They made their way through Kronos Station's corridors. The station housed 50,000 researchers, engineers, and military personnel. It was the crown jewel of humanity's presence in the void sector, but it was far from alone. Humanity had established settlements on 37 worlds, each one carefully chosen and terraformed using techniques that would have violated every collective regulation. They had built mining operations around resource-rich asteroids, constructed shipyards that produced vessels using hybrid human architect technology, and created an intelligence network that monitored the barrier constantly for any sign of collective activity. The central vault was located at the heart of Kronos Station, accessible only through multiple security checkpoints. Kai and Arya passed through each one, their biometric signatures verified at every stage. The final door opened into a chamber that seemed to exist partially out of phase with normal space. Walking into it felt like moving through water, a slight resistance that made every step deliberate. Dr. Maya Chan stood before a massive architect data core, a crystalline structure that pulsed with internal light. She was 68 years old, one of the few remaining who had been adults during the Exodus. Her white hair was wild, her clothes rumpled from days spent working without proper rest. But her eyes were alive with discovery. "You found it," she said without preamble, not bothering with greetings. "The key to everything. Look at this." She activated a holographic display. Complex equations filled the air, mathematics so advanced that even Kai, one of humanity's leading physicists, struggled to follow them all. The architects didn't just study time, Maya explained, her words tumbling over each other in excitement. They learned to anchor objects in temporal space, to make something exist across multiple time periods simultaneously. That's what Eternium is. It's matter that has been temporally anchored. It exists in the past, present, and future all at once. That's why it's indestructible, why it seems to repair itself, why it can show us different time periods. Arya crossed her arms. We already knew the architects were advanced. How does this help us? Because they left instructions, Maya said. She manipulated the display, bringing forward a new section. Hidden in the data core, encoded in layers we've only just learned to read. Instructions for creating our own temporally anchored matter, for building our own Eternium. The implications hit Kai like a physical force. If we can create Eternium, we can build structures that exist outside time. Ships that can't be destroyed because they exist in multiple temporal states. Weapons, defenses, entire cities that are functionally immortal. More than that, Maya said. The instructions include something else. A device the architects called the temporal beacon. Once activated, it creates a field that extends temporal anchoring to everything within its range. Not just objects, Kai. People. Living beings. Asterisk Arya stepped forward, her military mind already working through possibilities. You're saying we could make people immortal? Not immortal in the traditional sense, Maya clarified, but temporally persistent. Immune to conventional death, because your existence would be anchored across multiple time periods. If you die in one moment, you still exist in others. The universe would have to accommodate that paradox by keeping you alive. Kai sat down heavily in the nearest chair. This is what happened to the architects. They achieved this, didn't they? They temporally anchored themselves. Maya nodded slowly. I think so. And I think that's why they vanished. They didn't die. They didn't leave. They ascended into a state of existence that exists outside normal time and space. They became part of the fundamental structure of reality itself. Can we do it? Arya asked. Should we? The technology is here, Maya said. We have everything we need. The question is whether humanity is ready for this step. Kai stood and walked to the data core, placing his hand against its surface. Images flowed through his mind. The architects in their prime, beings of light and energy, building wonders across the galaxy. Their decision to anchor themselves temporally, to become something more than mortal. The moment of transcendence when they ceased to exist as individuals and became part of the eternal. We need to tell Ambassador Thorne, he said finally. Rebecca Thorne was 97 years old now, kept alive by advanced medical technology and sheer determination. She spent most of her time aboard the Indomitable, which had been converted from an arc ship into the mobile capital of humanity's void sector civilization. Hassan al-Rashid had died 15 years ago, but Rebecca carried on, driven by a promise she had made to herself during the exile. She would live to see humanity prove the collective wrong. When Kai, Arya, and Maya presented their findings, Rebecca listened in silence. Her aged hands rested on the conference table, liver spots marking skin that had once been smooth. But her eyes, those dark eyes that had stared down the Galactic Collective, remained sharp. How long? She asked when they finished. How long until we can implement this technology? 5 years to build the first temporal beacon, Maya said. Another 3 to test it properly. Call it 8 years total. I'll be dead by then, Rebecca said matter-of-factly. Probably within 2 years, according to my doctors. But that's fine. This isn't about me. It's about humanity's future. She paused, considering. There's something you need to know. We've detected increased activity near the barrier. Collective scout ships probing the edges. They're curious about what we've been doing for 80 years. Arya leaned forward. Can they get through? Not yet, but their technology improves. Our intelligence suggests they're developing barrier penetration systems. They're afraid we might have found something valuable in here. They want to know if their exile of humanity has backfired. It has, Kai said. Spectacularly. Rebecca smiled, an expression that held both triumph and sadness. Then we have a decision to make. Do we stay hidden, continue developing in secret, or do we reveal ourselves? Show the collective what we've become? If we reveal ourselves now, Maya said, they'll see us as a threat. They'll find a way through the barrier and attack before we've fully developed the temporal beacon. But if we wait, Arya countered, we risk them breaking through anyway, catching us in the middle of development. Better to show strength now, make them fear us enough to leave us alone. Kai thought about the architects, about being so advanced they had transcended physical existence entirely. There's a third option. We complete the temporal beacon. We anchor humanity in time. And then we don't just survive exile, we transcend it. We become something the collective can never threaten again. Rebecca studied each of them in turn. You understand what you're proposing? If we temporally anchor humanity, we cease to be what we were. We become something else, something eternal. The collective exiled us to eliminate a threat, Kai said. They thought if they couldn't see us, we would fade away, maybe destroy ourselves, certainly become irrelevant. Instead, we've discovered secrets they don't even know exist. We've learned from a civilization that achieved what they never could. Now we have the chance to take that final step, to become not just a threat, but something they cannot even comprehend. 8 years, Rebecca said. We'll need to accelerate the timeline. I want the first temporal beacon operational in 5 years. Double the research teams. Triple the resources allocated to the project. Whatever it takes. And the collective? Arya asked. Let them probe the barrier. Let them wonder. When we're ready, we'll show them exactly what they created when they exiled us. Rebecca's smile widened. They tried to erase humanity from their perfect galactic order. Instead, they gave us the opportunity to become eternal. 5 years later, Kai stood once again in the observation deck of Kronos Station. But now the view was different. The station had been transformed, expanded using Eternium construction techniques humanity had mastered. And at its center, visible even from this distance, was the temporal beacon dot. It looked like a miniature star, burning with light that somehow seemed to exist in multiple colors simultaneously. The beacon was active, its field extending throughout the station. Everyone within that field was now temporally anchored. Not immortal, but something perhaps better, persistent. Eternal. Kai looked at his hands. They appeared normal, but he could feel the difference. He existed now not just in this moment, but in all moments. Past, present, and future versions of himself overlapping, creating a continuity that transcended conventional death. Arya approached, and he could see the same quality in her. She existed with a solidity that normal people lacked, a weight that came from being anchored in time itself. Ambassador Thorn died 2 weeks ago, Arya said quietly, before the beacon was activated. She knew she wouldn't make it, but she wanted to see it completed first. She saw it, Kai replied, and she knew what it meant. The collective thought they were sentencing humanity to irrelevance. Instead, they sentenced us to greatness. The barrier is failing, Arya continued. Our monitors detect massive fluctuations. The collective is finally breaking through. They're sending a fleet, probably to check on their experiment, see if humanity survived exile. Kai smiled. Then let's show them what we've become. Activate the long-range transmitters. Send them a message. Arya nodded and moved to a control panel. Moments later, the station's powerful transmitters came online, sending a signal that would punch through the barrier and reach the day. Collectives approaching fleet. The message was simple. Just 5 words spoken in Ambassador Rebecca Thorn's recorded voice. She had made the recording the day before she died, knowing exactly how she wanted humanity's reemergence to be announced. We are still here. waiting. In the Collective's command ship, Archon Velshar received the transmission. He had been part of the council that exiled humanity 80 years ago. He had expected silence from the Void Sector, or perhaps desperate pleas for readmittance to collective space. Instead, he heard those 5 words, spoken with such confidence, such certainty, and he realized, too late, that the Collective had not eliminated a threat through exile. They had created something far worse. They had given humanity time, isolation, and motivation. They had given them the opportunity to evolve beyond the Collective's ability to control or even understand Dot as his fleet approached the barrier. Ready to break through and assess what remained of humanity, Velshar felt something he had not experienced in his thousands of years of existence. He felt fear. Asterisk.